Okay, hopefully third time's the charm. I've tried this a couple times. Hasn't worked out so well. But basically I'm going to take this piece. It's spalted birch I picked up out of a wood pile out at Great Salt Lake by the yacht club where people were just going to burn it. I looked at it and said, no, that's too pretty to burn. So anyway, I'm going to make a bowl start to finish. And what I usually do is I have these cutouts of old cardboard boxes. A lot of it's from things I've, tools and whatnot that I've picked up. But I have 6, 8, all the way up every 2 inches, up to 16 inches, which is the maximum capacity of my lathe. Now, what I'll do is I'll lay them out. Say this one looks like a good 6-inch, so it'll be a rather small bowl. So that's my pick. I'll probably go a little outside the line. But since this doesn't have bark and because of the way it curves, I may not use a thumbtack on something like this, but if there's bark, there's usually the thumbtack won't hold. So I'll use something like a roofing nail. I'll wear my safety glasses. Take this over here to the bandsaw. Put the safety glasses on. I'll make sure we're plugged in. Don't have a lot of power outlets, so we'll kind of trade here. So I'll fit under here, and I don't have a riser on this yet, but someday I'd like to get a riser so I can get a little more clearance for bigger blanks. But here we go. What I'm going to do is push this through. I twisted too much, but you want to feed the wood through rather than twist it. I'm twisting, but for the most part, I'm pushing it through, just changing where the cut is, but I'm actually pushing it through the blade instead of trying to twist it through the blade. That was why I slowed the saw down, because I started to bind it. But again, I'm pushing right here through rather than trying to twist the thing as it goes. This doesn't have to be perfect, just close. Now on larger logs, quite often I'll end up with a piece thick enough here. So if I have a section about 2 or 3 inches long by about 1.5 inches, 2 inches wide, then I'll cut this part off, make a little square, and I'll save that for making those little tiny birdhouses that people like so much. But okay, it's kind of rough, but at least I don't have to take all that extra off. And then we'll drop this here, head over to the lathe. I have it tucked back here in a corner, have curtains all around to keep the chips where they go. Normally, on safety, I prefer to use this face shield. I've had a few things hit me in the face and the helmet, but it's never hurt me. If I didn't wear anything, I get chips in my eyes, a lot of sand dust in my eyes, and the things that come fly off and hit me in the face would, probably break a bone. I'd like lose an eye or take out my cheekbone or lose a couple teeth. As it is, it hits, and I haven't gotten a scratch on me because of that. So I normally use this, but it'll sound like I'm talking in in a waterfall or something. The other thing I almost always use is one of these respirators. I don't really need the carbon filtration, but I do need the micron dust filtration that keeps it out of the lungs. Some people don't like them, but I know I sure feel better when I use it. And then you see here the vent for the dust collector. I normally work with that too, but because it's so noisy, I won't be running that either for the video. So let's set these aside. Yeah, I have a mess over here. Okay, so you can still see where the thumbtack is, so that is a good center for that side. For this side, see, I had that all I'll just kind of get an idea here of, there's about 7 inches, so we'll come in here 3.5, and I'll just make a mark. I'm just going to get a ballpark on it. So again, about 3.5. So right there is about the center. I'm not going to be too concerned with that right now, but that at least just kind of gives me an idea of where we're going to be. Now sometimes, right now because I'm lazy and this is small, I think I can get away with the spur center, well, spur drive. And this one has a little tenon on it that'll go in the chuck, and so I don't have to take the chuck off. And that's nice and tight. We'll snug it up, and that's not going anywhere. And that's in my drive. So then what we'll do, bring this guy up so I can bring the tailstock up. What I'm going to do is just kind of hold this here, bring up and come in around where that thumbtack hole was. Now this is one of the reasons I like going between centers, to see here I can kind of judge. So what I'm looking for is to keep this edge pretty level, and it looks pretty good. If you look at my finger, there's not too many places. So that actually looks pretty good. This is a little thicker, so it's going to wobble a little bit at first. So I'm not really center of the mass, but I'm about the center of that circle we just cut out. And I'll snug this up. You can see it jams into the teeth here. I'll probably get some slipping as I go, but I'll just... and that speed looks like it'll be pretty good. A little slower than I normally do, but it'll probably be safer. Okay, now what I want to do, I'm going to do the outside, so I usually bring this up a little above center, and we're going to adjust this so it clears. So I'm going to just take this off first, and then after we get that going, we'll start shaping. My favorite baby now is this 1/2 inch bowl gouge. I use a long grind on it. It's not a super long, but it is kind of a fingernail or Ellsworth or Irish grind if you like. It's you can see it's a deep flute with a U shape. This is my favorite, a lot of it because it's so heavy and it chatters less. So go ahead and fire this baby up. I've got it going the wrong way. I have a reversible lathe, which is nice for sanding, and I think the last time I had it used it, I was going the reverse direction. So we'll do a little draw cut here. I'm using a little bit of the wing, but I'm not too far up on it. Okay, we're getting out a little far, so bring this in closer. One way you can tell when you're getting it nice and smooth is you can hear the chattering cuts. Now this is the other reason I like this shield is with the shield I don't have to eat those chips coming off. So you can kind of hear the chatter, and you can see a little bit of a shadow here. So you know, like right in here, we're pretty good. We'll come here. What I need to do is take and flatten this end down so I can get a tenon for the chuck. Now I'm going to leave that nib there with a little dimple made by the tailstock, because that'll help me center this when I turn it around again to finish the bottom. Let's see if it looks like we've got enough to make the tenon. I'm going to leave the large jaws on. You can see the discoloration from the beetles eating at it and the staining from the fungus. That'll be pretty. So what we do is have calipers that are just preset. This one I have set for my smaller jaws, and this one I have set for these jaws. So what we do is, while it's spinning, I use this to scratch a line, and this end touches, this end rides free, otherwise we catch and hurt our fingers and all kinds of things. So we just hold this here and spin a circle. So we'll show you how we do that. And we see that scratch line matches up pretty good with both ends. So that's the end of the dovetail that I'm going to make for the jaws. My jaws have a little bit of a dovetail to them. And I bought some newer jaws. These are larger 5-inch. So you can see the detail here. There's a little dovetail to it. This angle, I want to match my tenon to this angle. And I don't want the tenon to be any longer than here, really, because if it presses up against this face, it tends to twist out. This face and right here is where we need a good fit. So it should rest against this face tight and never on the bottom. Same thing if you're doing this in expansion mode, your recess for the chuck should never go beyond this notch here if your chuck jaws are that way. Now if you're straight, then you want your tenon to be straight, but these have a little dovetail, so I'll try to match the dovetail on the jaws. Well, that's a little theory. Then we see how we do in practice. So now I'm going to make myself probably about a 1/4 inch long or so. 3/16 to a 1/4 inch. Usually what I do, this is a little smaller bowl, so I don't need a big huge. Now this doesn't make a good dovetail, so I'm going to switch tools. And this is a skew-chi gouge that I made. It's a little thin and a little long, so it chatters. But for this kind of thing, it works really good. I'll use the tip. I don't know. I don't know if you can see, but that looks like a pretty good match on the dovetail. I think this might be... I think that'll be good. I'm not terribly uptight about the size matching perfect, but you should have so the gap on the jaws is about 1/8 of an inch, which is about the kerf on the saw that they use to cut the jaws apart. And the jaws are numbered so you can get them back in the same order as they were when they were made on the die.